my head says it's going to be 50-55. My gut pulls it down to the low 40s because you think about a voter that goes in, a swing voter, and they go and they, oh, I'm so mad at Obama, and I'm so mad at those Democrats. That health care thing stunk. You get inside the voting booth, and a lot of people aren't like us. They don't follow this every day. And they sit there, and I just wonder how many people are going to go, you know, I fired these people 2 years ago. They had the country for a decade. We're in 2 wars. The debt's higher than it's ever been. The economy crashed. God, do I want to rehire them again? I think there may be buyer's remorse before they even take the car off the lot.
You're being rational. And this is not a rational election. I mean, look at all the...
Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm a conservative guy, and I would vote conservative. I'm saying for the independent swing voters.
But that's not what I mean. What I'm saying is that people are operating out of fear and anxiety at the moment. And when they operate out of fear and anxiety, they operate out of what they call their lizard brains. You know, lizard brains are not susceptible to rationality. That's why the argument of you just voted them out and you want to vote them in isn't going to cut it.
Now, lizard brains. So is that what Americans did in Ireland when they elected a state senator, president of the United States? Was that fear?
That was hope. That was hope.
Oh, that's hope. So if a Democrat wins it, it's hope. If a
Good luck with your Twitter feed today there, Arianna. That's going to be something else. Good luck with that.
Let me ask you a question this way, Joe.
Jack, I want you retweeting.
I'm not tweeting anything.
What if those people don't show up? That's what I think swings the election. The people who are right there and disgusted with everybody, they're just enough of it. And the people who do show up, they know who they want to vote for.
Very quickly on your point on this thing, is that I've had a couple of pollsters tell me, and people that have been out there, and I've talked to some people out there who say, you know what, any name I recognize on the ballot, I'm voting against. Well, what could that mean? It actually could mean both major party nominees don't get votes, and instead these libertarians or these third-party candidates do. And in fact, I've had one Republican pollster that says, I said, okay, if Democrats hold the House, what will be the explanation? He says 20 Democratic incumbents will get elected with less than 50%.
I think
that would be the only explanation that you could get.
I just think this year is so different from other years because Republicans are at 24%, Democrats are 29, 30%, Congress is at 14%. The only person who has a respectable approval rating is still the President of the United States. And that ain't nothing. Right track, wrong track, down. But I'm just saying that this is a year like no other year. You're right.
That sounds very biblical. A year like no other year.
Well, all the institutions.
They told of it in the olden days.
Well, I would like you to find another year where public institutions in the United States of America were held in lower esteem. Whether you're talking about banking sector.
1776.
Maybe 1776.
Okay, I think the British government wasn't very well received
now,
back then.
for the record, and Arianna has clarified this for me.
Oh, geez, don't go there.
When Democrats win, people are using the hope side of their brain. When Republicans win, they're using the lizard side of their brain. What are you doing? You're proving me right.
Boy, you're going to dine out. You're going to dine out on that for a month, aren't you?
Well, she just encapsulated it.
It has nothing to do with Republicans or Democrats. It's when people are operating out of fear, they don't actually pay attention to data.
Like 2008.
Thank you.
2004. And
like
how about the
2008.
presidential election?
They were scared in 2008, so they elected a state senator, president of the United States.
President George W. Bush. Chuck, we'll see you in the Daily Rundown.
Yes,
thanks.
you got it.
Ezra, stay here, because I want to go over boxer ahead in California, fine gold in trouble in Wisconsin, and Patty Murray tied in Washington State. A lot of cross currents.
All right, coming up next, the moderator of Meet the Press.
This cross currents.
I just thought you were using your lizard brain. David Gregory coming up. Also.
Why wouldn't I?
I'm not voting Republican on November 2nd because unlike the Tea Party, I remember. I remember which party defends tax breaks for corporations that move their operations and your job overseas.
Yeah, I remember.
I remember that nobody knew that the levees were going to break.
I remember.
I remember which party was in power when my hometown in New Orleans was underwater during Katrina.
I remember which party started a needless trillion-dollar war in Iraq.
I remember which party took a record budget surplus and turned it into a record budget deficit.
I remember
I remember which party believes that spending money on our nation is wasted money.
I remember which party brought us the Wall Street bailout.
I remember which party believes in states' rights unless the state passes a law that doesn't coincide with their narrow point of view.
I remember which party blocked health care for our nation's 9/11 first responders and cleanup volunteers.
I'm not voting Republican this year because I have a memory.
I remember.
I remember which party dismantled the government agencies that protect our food supply.
Thereby providing my family with poisonous lettuce, spinach, meat, and eggs.
I'm not voting Republican this year because I have a memory.
I remember.
I remember which party believes that the only problem wrong with our nation is the wealthy don't have enough money and enough freedom to pollute our air and water.
I'm not voting Republican this year because I do have a memory.
I remember which party has worked tirelessly to destroy Social Security,
Medicare,
public education,
civil rights, and equal pay for women.
I remember.
Because I remember.
I remember which party believes that by giving our government less money, it'll somehow have more money.
I remember which party was in power during every major banking crisis since 1900.
I remember.
I remember.
I remember which party cannot hear the screams of the people, but the whispers of big business.
I remember.
I remember which party wants to take our country back.
And I remember which party wants to take our country forward.
I'm not voting Republican this year because I remember.
On November 2nd, you should remember too.